Shalom, shalom. I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahawah, Bahashem, Yahawashi, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also, want to acknowledge all the Akim who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. And shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. This is the brother Shabai from GMS Denver, and I'm going to do this lesson here in Numbers 11. And that picture, the image you see on my screen, it represents the story in Numbers 11 with Moses, and that's the quail that the Most High had provided for the Israelites as meat when they were complaining in the wilderness. So let me read, starting at the top at verse 1, Numbers 11 and 1. It says, "And when the people complained, it displeased Yahawah, and Yahawah heard it, and his anger was kindled. And the fire of Yahawah burnt among them and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. And the people cried unto Moses, and when Moses prayed unto Yahawah, the fire was quenched." So just one point may be in, the power that Yahawah B'Hashem Yahawashi gives his prophets. So just by praying, Moses was able to, through the Lord, through praying to the Lord Yahawah, the fire was quenched. So we were going in last night at camp on how we're going to have the ability to perform great miracles, great works, because of what Yahawashi has done for us. And those that believe in Yahawah B'Hashem Yahawashi are going to be able to, talking about the men, the prophets, are going to have those spiritual powers and ability to do great works. The scriptures gives us plenty of examples of times and instances and events where the Lord's prophets, Yahawah's prophets, were doing great miracles. Okay. So let's read verse 2. It says, or verse 3, "And he called the name of the place Taberah, because of the fire of the Lord burnt among them. And the mixed multitude that was among them fell a lusting. And the children of Israel also wept again, and said, Who shall give us flesh to eat? We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. But now our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all beside this manna before our eyes." So they were complaining about the manna. They were essentially complaining that they had it better off as slaves in Egypt, and that's that's kind of the same thing with now. Our people, they would prefer to be in slavery, than to be free spiritually. And even, like I say, they don't take on the spirit of Yahawah B'Hashem Yahawashi, which is, when you take on the spirit of Yahawah B'Hashem Yahawashi, you basically leave the ways of Egypt, which this is spiritual Egypt, America, as the scriptures tells you. So let's keep reading. "But now our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all beside this manna before our eyes. And the manna was as coriander seed, and the color thereof as the color of bdellium. And the people went about and gathered it, and grind it in the mills, and beat it in a mortar, and baked it in pans, and made cakes of it. And the taste of it was as the taste of fresh oil. And when the dew fell upon the camp in the night, the manna fell upon it. Then Moses heard the people weep throughout. So manna is another word for angel food. All right, the Lord was feeding us, providing the Israelites with food from the heavens. Okay, manna, angel food. And our people were not satisfied with that manna, right? They were complaining. They'd rather be in Egypt, in slavery, eating fish and cucumbers and melons, you see. And that's the same way our people are now. They'd rather be here in slavery under the oppressor than, focus on the blessings that we actually have through Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai, okay? And it says, then Moses heard the people weep throughout their families, every man in the door of his tent. And the anger of Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai was kindled greatly. Moses also was displeased. Right, it's pissed it off, and that's how it is now. The prophets now, we look at the 2/3 and the way they act, and not only is Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai pissed off at 2/3 of our people, but so are his men. We're tired of the way our people act. We're tired of our people. They don't want to come out of the ways of the heathen. And we're really sick of this place, man. We're ready for the kingdom, wherein we have, ultimate blessings that we can't even fathom in our mind. But yet our people, they want to fight for this place and hold on to this place, and they pray for this place to be healed, which we know the scriptures talks about how Babylon cannot be healed, okay? So let's keep reading. It says, verse 11, and Moses said unto Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai, wherefore hast thou afflicted thy servant? And wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight? Thou hast layest the burden of all this people upon me. You see? So Moses was stressed out, It says, have I conceived all this people? Have I begotten them? He's like, yo, these are not my kids, He was stressed out, man. He didn't want to deal with all the complaining and the bickering and the murmuring of the Israelites. And let's keep reading. Have I begotten them, that thou shouldest say unto me, carry them in thy bosom, as a nursing father bearing the sucking child, unto the land which thou swearest unto their fathers? Whence should I have flesh to give unto all this people? For they weep unto me, saying, give us flesh that we may eat. So they were crying. They wanted to eat. They were sick and tired of eating the manna, which in this situation, it was a miracle for it to even be fed in the wilderness. And that's, a righteous man is going to be like, yo, this is a miracle we're eating. You're not going to sit there and complain and wish you can go back into Egypt if you're righteous, if your mindset's right. And that's the same thing that we're approaching now, Jacob's trouble. There's going to be some harsh times that we're going to come into. And you got to have the mindset of being thankful for, being able to just live daily, breathe, that you're not 6 feet under in the times that we're coming into. And if you don't have that spirit of endurance or that spirit of Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai on you, then you're going to be very afflicted and disappointed, and eventually you're going to be put to death as an Israelite. Okay? It says, verse 14, and I am not able to bear all this people alone, because it is too heavy for me. And if thou deal thus with me, kill me, I pray thee, out of hand. If I have found favor in thy sight, let me not see my wretchedness. And Yahawah said unto Moses, gather unto me 70 men out of the elders of Israel, whom thou knowest to be elders of the people, and officers over them, and bring them unto the tabernacle of the congregation, that they may stand there with thee. All right. So to take the burden off of Moses, because he was stressed out, the Most High commanded him to gather him 70 elders, which that we always tell you the number 7 and 70, even if it's 700 or 7,000, it represents a completeness. So it wasn't necessarily just 70 men, but it was a complete number of men who were going to help bear the burden of the Israelites and their complaining. Because it was obviously, when you read this chapter, it was taking a toll on Moses, and he was stressed out. He even said, "Why don't you just kill me?" you know. So verse 16, it says, "And Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahushai said unto Moses," oh, I read that. Verse 17, "And I will come down and talk with thee there, and I will take of the Spirit which is upon thee, and I will put it upon them. And they shall bear the burden of the people with thee, and thou bear it not thyself alone." All right, so Yahawah was telling Moses he was going to put a spirit, which that's the spirit of Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahushai. That's how he does with his prophets. He puts his spirit on us, right? Let's grab a precept. "I will put my spirit on you," KJV. All right. It says right here, Ezekiel 36 and 27, "And I will put my spirit within you, and cause you to walk in my statutes, and ye shall keep my judgments and do them." Okay, so this applies to the men of Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahushai. He's put his spirit on us. Okay, that's why we're holy. The word holy means separate. That's why we're different, right? That's why we're separated, spiritually, mentally, and sometimes even physically from the rest of these people, right? Because that's what that word holy means. If we have the Holy Spirit on us, hey, not all these people have the Holy Spirit on them. Not all these people have the Spirit of Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahushai on us or on them. Okay, so let's keep reading. Verse 18, it says, "And say thou unto the people, sanctify yourselves against tomorrow, and ye shall eat flesh, for ye have wept in the ears of Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahushai, saying, Who shall give us flesh to eat? For it was well with us in Egypt. Therefore Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahushai will give you flesh, and ye shall eat. Ye shall not eat 1 day, nor 2 days, nor 5 days, neither 10 days, nor 20 days, but even a whole month, until it come out at your nostrils, and it be loathsome unto you." So basically, this is part of the wrath of Yahawah. He was pissed off, at the whole situation, he's looking, the way you put yourself in Yahawah's shoes. He's looking at all his people complain about the manna that he's provided for us, complain about the delivering us out of Egypt when we were slaves. And now here we are, our people just being overzealous, over greedy, wanting better food, wanting an upgrade, wanting meat, instead of the manna. They were, so they were ungrateful, right? Our people are ungrateful people, you see, except for those that have the spirit of Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahushai on us. But again, even in like Moses, he had that righteous spirit. He had the excellent spirit. But even that was too much of a burden, because Moses was, he was feeling it. He was feeling the heat, the stress. You see? So let's keep reading. "And Moses said, The people among whom I am are 600,000 footmen. And thou hast said, I will give them flesh, that they may eat a whole month. Shall the flocks and the herds be slain for them to suffice them? Or shall all the fish of the sea be gathered together for them to suffice them?" And Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahushai said unto Moses, Is Yahweh's hand waxed short? Thou shalt see now whether my word shall come to pass unto thee or not. So Moses was like, yo, man, there's so many people. How are you going to feed all these people meat? He was doubting. He had a spirit of he was doubting that the Yahawah could feed all the people, in the wilderness, the Israelites. It says, and Moses went out and told the people the words of Yahawah, and gathered the 70 men of the elders out of the people, and set them round about the tabernacle. And Yahawah came down in a cloud, which that's a chariot, what you ignorantly call a UFO, and spake unto him, and took of the spirit that was upon him, and gave it unto 70 elders. And it came to pass that when the spirit rested upon them, they prophesied and did not cease. Okay, so the Most High gave those men, which was a complete number, 70, complete number of men, the spirit that Moses had on him, which was, and also an ability to prophesy. Okay, showing you that these were the elect, that really the first fruits, the elect of Israel, if you will, right? So it says, but there remained 2 of the men in the camp. The name of the one was Eldad, and the name of the other Medad. And the Spirit rested upon them. And they were of them that were written, but went not out unto the tabernacle, and they prophesied in the camp. And there ran a young man and told Moses, and said, Eldad and Medad do prophesy in the camp. And Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of Moses, one of his young men, answered and said, My Lord Moses, forbid them. And Moses said unto him, Enviest thou for my sake? Would the Most High that all the Yahawah's people were prophets, and that Yahawah would put his spirit upon them? And Moses gat him into the camp, he and the elders of Israel. And there went forth a wind from Yahawah, and brought quails from the sea, and let them fall by from the camp, as it were a day's journey on this side, and as it were a day's journey on the other side, round about the camp, and as it were 2 cubits high upon the face of the earth. And that's what that picture in this image here represents, those quail. Because Most High can do whatever he wants. Okay? And when Moses was doubting, how in the world are you going to feed all these people in this wilderness? And you see the picture, and this really doesn't do it justice, but as we're about to read, the Lord Yahawah provided the Israelites a whole lot of quail, right? A whole lot of bird meat, a whole lot of flesh, what they were asking for. But remember, he was pissed off at them because of their lack of faith and their murmuring and their complaining. Just like the 2/3, they're gonna complain. They're already complaining. They complain to the Lord's true men, the servants, the prophets. Our people, they rather follow the devil than to follow the men of the Lord, right? Our people will, have an argument with us on the street corners when we tell them that they shouldn't be eating abominations, but they'll turn around and be all kind and gentle with Esau Edom, the man who's feeding them abominations, giving them the ability to order. When they order food here in Babylon, you order a pizza, you throw on fucking pepperoni, and if you don't get beef pepperoni, then you're eating pork, which that's an abomination. Or you order some fucking shrimp scampi at Red Lobster, or even you order a lobster. Those are all abominations. See, our people, they'll get down like that, but they won't listen to the men of the Lord, and they'll argue, talk shit, try and debate with us. Oh, we can eat whatever we want, we can do. Well, just like they did in the ancient, as we're about to read, let's see, there's punishments that comes with, whenever you break the law, you have to understand, what's the definition of sin? Transgression of the law. If you transgress the law, and if you're sinning over and over, with iniquity, that's what that is, sinning repeatedly, eventually that sin is going to bring death, all right? Bring forth death. So let's keep reading. Verse 30, and Moses gat him into the camp, and he and the elders of Israel. And there went forth a wind from Yahawah, and brought quails from the sea, and let them fall by the camp, as it were a day's journey on this side, and as that were... As it were a day's journey on this side, and as it were a day's journey on the other side, round about the camp, and as it were 2 cubits high upon the face of the earth. So this was a ton of birds, man. You understand? Like, let's see. So just to put this in a perspective, when you're looking at how many quails and birds the Most High sent, it would be a day's journey, and this was, they were walking. So if you're walking a whole day, that's how many birds, that's how much quail they had. You walk out towards the east, the north, the west, the south, on a whole day's journey. In that whole walk, there's just tons of dead quail right there to be gathered up and eaten, right? And then it says 2 cubits high. I remember I did some research before. 1 cubit, I remember, would represent like the size of an SUV, right, or a car, right? So imagine having that size, that height. It says 2 cubits high, so like 2 heights of 2 cars, and then you just have all these dead birds. You walk a whole day's journey, and that's how there's like tons of birds just available to be gathered and to be, stored up and eaten. And we know that, you got to be careful with eating flesh, any type of flesh, but especially like bird flesh or chicken flesh, right? Like quails in this case. Like, even when you buy some chicken at the store, the chicken is one of those meats where you can't just let it sit out, especially if the temperatures and conditions are not right. You got to throw that shit out if it's out too long. Or even if you cook it and it's sitting out there too long, it ain't no good, right? So let's read this. Let's keep reading. So the Most High provided, but if you don't have proper storage, proper way to store that meat, it's gonna go bad and you're gonna get sick, right? So let's read this. It says, verse 32, and the people stood up all that day and all that night and all the next day and gathered the quails, because there were so many. There's, you know what I mean? He that gathered least gathered 10 homers, and they spread them all abroad for themselves round about the camp. So when you go into this word homer, it's a measurement. Okay, and it basically, when I looked into it, it's basically 65 gallons. So if you had 10 homers, and those were the ones who were on the low end, right? You had 10 homers, you had basically 65 gallons of quail, like I said, it's a measurement. So that's a ton of meat. That's a ton of flesh. And again, you got to remember, they're in the wilderness. They didn't have like a refrigerator to stick the meat or freeze it or whatever, So let's keep reading. It says, and while the flesh was yet between their teeth, ere it was chewed, and the wrath of Yahawah was kindled against them people, and Yahawah, Ba'ashem Yahushai, smote the people with a very great plague. You gotta understand, they had all that meat, all that flesh, all those birds to eat, the quail. But you have to, like I say, they were in the wilderness. They didn't have no proper way to store the food. They didn't have a proper way to keep it. So while they were chewing, the Most High Yahawah had struck them with a plague. They had an abundance, but basically, I mean, when you just look at it, realistically, you can understand that the birds, that shit's gonna go bad right away if you don't have it properly stored, right? So by the time they were eating it, even before they chewed it up, they were sick. They caught like the bird flu, and you can Google the bird flu. Basically, that's a virus that, basically when the meats are not, I mean, if anybody's had food poisoning, you can imagine. I've had food poisoning in the past. That shit'll fuck you up. You'll be eating like on a Monday. If you ate some bad food on a Monday, that shit'll kick in like on Tuesday or Wednesday. And I remember one time I had it. Man, I felt like I was dying. I felt like I had like my fucking, I felt nauseous, dizzy, body aches. I couldn't eat. I was dehydrated. I couldn't do, you know what I mean? I was fucking bedridden. I couldn't do shit because I ate some bad food, right? So this is basically what happened. That's what this plague is. Basically, it was like the bird flu came on these people, or some bad food poisoning, It says, and he called, this verse 34, and he called the name of that place Kibroth Hatavah, because there they buried the people that lusted, right? And the people that lusted were those Israelites who were like, they got overzealous. They was like, oh shit. Remember, it said the ones that took the least took 65 gallons, which was, or 10 homers, 650 gallons of quail, which that's a ton of meat, right? 600, just imagine, you go to one of the grocery stores, you buy like a gallon of milk, right? Imagine having 650 gallons of milk, which represented all them birds in measurement. Again, Homer is a measurement. So you had a ton of food, but you didn't have the proper way to store the food, and you still over there eating it. And yeah, it's going to kill you. That's what it did here. It killed a lot of people. So let's keep reading. And all the people journeyed from Kibroth Hatavah unto Hazeroth, and abode at Hazeroth. So basically, the Most High punished them. And they obviously didn't use wisdom. The 2/3 don't use wisdom. They're over here eating birds that went bad. Yeah, for maybe a day or two, it was okay or whatever. But after a while, that meat's going to go bad, man. And then the Lord plagued them. All right? So, through the Spirit, this is the lesson that the Lord gave me today. I hope the lesson was edifying. I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahawah, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rekah, Kodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also, want to acknowledge the Akyam, who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. A shalom to the elect. Shalom.